Hello everyone, this is a compilation video. The DIYs in this video will not match the sequential order that it shows. I'm currently working on some brand new DIYs, so I hope you enjoy the video. For the first ornament, I'm going to choose these two sizes, an average size spool and then a little bit of a smaller one. And starting off, I'm going to remove the paper the best that I can, and I'm also going to sand off some of it. It's okay if it's not completely off because I am going to paint over it, but I do want to remove as much as I can. This ornament is going to be a snowman, so I'm doing a really simple paint palette of white, black, and orange, and the large spool is going to be the face. So I start painting the entire spool white, and I'm just going to leave the top rim of the spool black for the brim of the hat. The smaller spool is going to be the top part of the hat, so it'll look like a top hat, and that is of course going to be completely black, so painting all of it, the top and the bottom. And after it is finished, I'm also going to start working on the face. Before I glue it together, it's just a little bit easier for me to have a good grip, so I'm doing a simple carrot nose, and I'm also going to be using my dotting tool for the eyes and the mouth. After the paint has dried, I just simply use a hot glue gun to glue the top spool to the bottom one, and it looks like a really cute top hat. Now I'm going to add a few different decorations. I wanted to do a little jingle bell at the bottom just to add a little sound so when it hangs on your tree it jingles. So using a rusty jingle bell and some jute, I just push it up through the spools. Now because this is kind of long, it was a little tricky. I got one string to go just fine, but I used a crochet hook to grab a hold of the other string, and that pulled it up through really easily. After tying the knot at the top, I added this little burgundy checked ribbon around the edge of the hat. I thought this was a super cute little detail, and I even wanted to add some greenery to the front of the hat with a couple little red berries. The last finishing touch is this little bow to match the ribbon around the hat, and here it is, the finished Christmas ornament. I think it's super cute and simple. I definitely want to make more of these for my craft show. I use another wooden spool, and I've already removed the paper from the top and the bottom, and I am going to be painting over this one again. And I'm using a nice kind of sandy brown color, white, and this does look black on camera, but it's a nice dark brown. And I'm just going to tell you right now what it is. One day I was looking at a spool and it reminded me of a s'more. And I don't really know what made me think of that, but I thought that center part is a giant white marshmallow. The top and the bottom is the graham cracker, and then you could have like the chocolate right around the top of the spool. So of course, like I mentioned earlier, I'm painting this middle part white because it's going to be the big fat marshmallow. And then I decided to paint the top and the bottom the sandy color. Now I felt like at first it was a little bit too pale, so I did darken it up a little bit. And I'm also going around the edges so it looks like a nice graham cracker. Now this is where the fun part comes in, the nice drips of the chocolate. I really like doing this, and this paint was so nice and thick. I only had to paint over it one time, which was great because usually I have to do multiple coats. But this was a super fun part for me. I love making all of the wiggles because it doesn't have to look perfect. I mean, it's dripping chocolate. And just for fun, I added just a tiny bit of a wiggle, like the marshmallow is just starting to kind of melt around the bottom of the spool. And to give it a little bit of a more graham cracker texture, I added a darker color to the top, just kind of stippling it on top, because it still wasn't looking very graham cracker to me. It was looking kind of flat. I'm now painting a really simple and cute snowman face, and if you are not a painter, don't worry, the next craft involves zero paint, so stick around for that one if you're not really somebody that enjoys painting. After finishing his cute little smile, I just needed to add the string to hang it from the tree, and so it wouldn't slide all the way up through, I did add a little rusty jingle bell to the bottom so it can make a little jingle on your tree. I think this ornament turned out super cute and unique, and it does look like a s'more, so I'm happy with it. For the second ornament, I'm going to be painting it just a nice red color, and I'm using my Americana acrylic paint that you can find at Hobby Lobby, or I've seen it at Joann's or even Michael's. After painting them, you can see that I ended up doing 3 of these, and I always make multiple of every ornament. I don't always show you every one I make, but I make multiple because I end up selling them at craft shows later in the year. Now this little half circle that I'm painting on here, I was using at first folk art paint, and I don't know if you like folk art paint. If you do, that's great, but I thought it was awful. I was just kind of lazy and didn't go and get my normal Americana paint that I had, and I ended up going and getting it because that folk art paint was chunky and thick and globby, and you can't tell from the video, but it looked really bad. So now I'm just using my Posca paint pens to add a few decorations, and if you guessed correctly, this is a little snowman. So I did the little carrot nose, and now I'm just doing a cute little wreath around its head, like it has a little halo of garland, and it's very cute and very sweet. I added some little berries. I thought I would use my little paint pen, but this larger red one worked just fine. I didn't have to make quite as many dots as I would have with the little one. And I ended up discovering this little technique where I put the paint pen on the little cheeks, but then I end up using a paintbrush to spread it around, and it makes like the perfect little rosy cheek, so I don't have to get out pink paint and white paint and mix it together. The Posca pen blends really nicely with a paintbrush. Doing the little coal mouth with my black one, and just some sweet little eyes, like they're smiling and their eyes are closed, with a couple little eyelashes. Now this could have been finished the way it was, but I wanted to add some little white dots, and I'm doing that with my dotting tool and just normal white acrylic paint. These dotting tools are amazing. You can find them, I think, at Hobby Lobby and other craft stores as well. And here are the 3 finished hearts. Very simple, but very, very cute. The second craft is going to be a little bit more rustic, and I'm using these rusty snowmen, and it comes on this long garland, but I'm going to just use one of them as an ornament, so I'm going to cut it off of the garland just to make sure it's not going to be sharp. I do cut off those extra ends, and I'm going to be covering that up later with some ribbon so it doesn't poke anyone. Now right now as it is, there is no hole for the string to go through to make it an ornament. So all I have to do is take this long nail and bang the nail a few times into the rusty top and file that down, and that creates the hole. I'm going to be painting a little bit on this snowman, but as you can see, this snowman I've had for a long time, and the rust does not come through. I was a little bit worried that after it would dry, the rust would eventually start to poke through and make it look kind of dirty and brown, but the paint covers it up really well, and there's no problems with that at all. So I'm just doing a simple little painting. I chose this snowman, if you haven't guessed already, because it has these cute little heart buttons, and it goes along with this heart theme. So just adding a few little decorations to the hat and some fresh fallen snow on there with some paint. It's very simple, but it's very cute. Here is the ribbon I talked about earlier, just a thin green ribbon to tie in the little holly that I have at the top of his hat. I'm just going to tie a simple little knot for my ribbon, and this is also going to be the string that I hang it from. So I get these rusty pieces from an online store called Factory Direct Craft. It's an online craft store where you can find all sorts of holiday decorations, but for every season. It's not just Christmas. And here is the final product. I think it's super cute and very simple, but I really like it. And even though it is a snowman, I think the heart buttons make it suitable for Valentine's Day too. For craft number 2, I'm taking an old pair of ripped jeans and I'm flipping it over because I'm going to be using the back pockets. I'm going to be cutting those out and turning them into a really cute Christmas pocket. So it could be something that could go on a tree if you have a really giant tree, or it could just hang somewhere really cute in your house, like on a doorknob or on the wall. Now when cutting these out, you definitely want it to remain a pocket because I'm going to be stuffing it. So I'm just cutting really carefully right around the edge, but making sure it doesn't damage the pocket itself. And even though these are a ripped jean, you want the back of it to look nice because you don't want any holes or tears. You can see that the pocket is still nice and intact. Now I'm going to be painting a very simple and cute snowman face. Now because this is a jean texture, it is bumpy and it does take quite a bit of paint. I even ended up just kind of pouring the paint directly onto it so I didn't have to go back and forth to get paint. So if you're doing this, don't worry, you're not doing it wrong. It does take a lot of paint and about 2 or 3 coats so you don't see a lot of that bluish gray color coming through. After doing just a nice big half circle, I painted a nice little bumpy carrot nose because this is going to be a very simple snowman face, like he's looking up. Now, I've made these before in the past, and they are very popular at craft shows. It's just a cute little something. I even have seen people give these as gifts to people. Painting two cute, really simple eyes, and then a nice wiggly whole mouth, just your traditional snowman face. I wanted to give it a couple little eyebrows. I thought it just gave it a little bit more character. Now this next step I ended up changing a little bit. I thought I would add a little highlight to the mouth, but I thought it ended up just looking like a bunch of eyeballs looking at me, so I didn't really like that. So I just decided to do the highlight to the eyes, and I covered up those white spots that I added to the mouth so it doesn't look quite as strange. This little piece of foam I'm then going to be stuffing in. You don't want it to be too thick, it's just a nice thin piece of foam, and it just fits perfectly down inside of the pocket because I'm going to be stuffing some extra decorations inside in a little bit. Now to make it hang, I just take this thin wire and I poke it through. Now if you're having a hard time poking it through because blue jeans are thick material, you can take some pliers and just kind of snip the outside of it just a little bit, and that does help poke the metal through. Other times it just pops right through really easily. It just depends on the material and how old it is. After I poke it through, I just take my pliers and twist it up so that it's nice and secure and it won't slide back through. I then end up doing that on the other side for the hanger. As an extra little detail, I added these flat back snowflakes that I get from Hobby Lobby, and they're also sparkly, so it does add a little glitter to your project. I think it was really extra cute. And to cover up that foam, I'm just using a bit of Spanish moss to camouflage it because I don't want to look down in there and see any craft foam. I'm using pip berries, and these are really super fun to use. All you have to do is twirl them around your finger and it makes this cute coil of berries. I start stuffing those inside of the foam, and after doing several of those kind of in a fan, I thought it needed some greenery, so I looked through my stash of different types and I chose this sparkly greenery that's kind of thin, not too thick, and it worked out really well. I just had to put 3 of those in the background just to add an extra little color. And here's the finished pocket. It is super simple and really fast to make, and I did have a second one that I want to show you that I've had for so long, I mean years and years. I painted this a long time ago and I just finished it with the same pips and greenery. It's a cute little elf. He has a little hammer and a candy cane in his pocket. Super sweet. I'm hoping that I can sell this one at my craft show in November. For ornament number 3, this one's probably my favorite out of all of them. Now I got this wooden ornament from Joann's, and I'm so sad that they closed, but I'm sure you can find wooden ornaments just like this elsewhere, probably on Amazon or maybe even at Hobby Lobby. And I'm going to paint it entirely white because this again is going to be a snowman ornament. And I cut off the string at the top because I'm not actually going to be using that hanger at all. I'm going to be adding a little hat to it later. After letting that dry, I brought in this little wooden nose, and you don't have to use a wooden nose. If you just want to paint a flat nose on this, that's totally fine, but I had these little wood scraps laying around, so I thought I would give it a little 3D nose, and I just painted all of that orange. Once the circle was dry, I just brought that back in, and I'm going to be using again a sweater for the hat. This is going to be a different sweater from the last one. It's this nice olive green color. Again, something I got from Goodwill, and it has holes and stains on it, so I'm not cutting up a brand new sweater at all. And what's great about this is the sleeve. The sleeve has this little ribbing around the edge, and that is going to be the brim of the hat. After sliding up the ornament inside and getting it all nice and adjusted and figuring out how far down I wanted it to go, I then just trimmed off the extra, and I made it nice and long because I didn't want to mess up and cut it too short. I can always trim that up later. I then ended up gluing down the hat, so just flipping up the edge and putting a little bead of hot glue underneath it to make it nice and secure. I also rolled over the brim of the hat and glued that down as well. And I repeated these same steps on the back side of the snowman. I then cinched up the hat and I'm using jute to tie a bow around it, and jute was the perfect option because of the rough texture. I know it's not going to come undone, and this is where I'm going to be hanging the ornament from the tree, so I knew it needed to be nice and tight and secure. After tying the bow, I just trimmed it to the size that I liked. I definitely needed to make the hat shorter because it was looking way too long, so I just cut off the excess, and depending on how thick the sweater is, you want to go nice and slow because you don't want it to look really wiggly or wobbly, so I just took my time cutting a nice straight line across the top. And now is the fun part, assembling all of the pieces. I'm going to hot glue the nose in place, and I also wanted to decorate the hat a little bit, so I added some greenery and also some berries. I absolutely love flocked greenery. The hat was already green, so I wanted it to stand out, so that's why I chose some with some white snow on it, and these two cute little berries were just perfect just to add a little pop of red. I'm using a Posca paint pen for the face, and I'm just doing a very sweet and simple face. The eyes are closed like they're super happy and smiling. I added a couple little eyelashes to the side and the same mouth that I did on the jean pocket. I just added a little circle kohl mouth and colored those in using the Posca paint pen. And here is the finished ornament. I really love this one a lot, and I'm definitely going to make more. And just so you know, I just used a plain simple Christmas hook and put it to the side so his head would kind of tilt, or you could always hang it right in the center. And I counted, and I think I have enough to make 11 or 12 more of these, so I'm super excited, and I think that they'll go really well at my craft show. This styrofoam cone I've had for years, and I've just been stumped on what to do with it until today. The cone will be the body of the snowman, along with this Christmas ornament from Hobby Lobby that will be the head of the snowman. To start off, I'm just going to remove the string because I don't want it to actually look like a Christmas ornament, and I'm going to figure out how tall I want it to be. This craft is actually pretty tall, and it's going to be over 12 inches in height, and I use a serrated knife to cut off the excess foam. Now, because it's a round ornament, I also wanted to carve out a little bit for it to have a well to sit inside, and I fill that well with a bunch of hot glue and make sure it's completely dry before I start working on it with any of the other craft materials. This piece of felt I've already pre-cut and is going to be the front of the snowman, so I just gently hot glued that to the front to cover up the cone. And then this large piece of burgundy red felt, I cut out this shape from really thick paper. That's going to be my template, and I'm making kind of a cape-like outfit for this little snowman. I wanted it to be red because it's going to match the hat. I didn't have any buffalo plaid material, but this red ends up looking really nice as well. After getting it cut out, I just do the same thing by wrapping it around the neck, and then I'm just going to hot glue it on the front in place so it won't come off. And this craft is perfect for me because if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I am not a fan of sewing, but this still looks like it is something that has been sewn without actually having to get out a sewing machine or any hand sewing. Now what I'm doing is just putting on some additional details. I'm gluing down this thick jute rope that I have to give its coat a little extra trim. It also hides any uneven edges if you don't cut out the material very smooth. And I wrap it all the way up to the very top of the snowman, and it just looks like a really nice finished coat. Now this fur I usually actually use to make gnome beards with my crafting, but I'm going to trim it up really well to be a collar. And anytime you use fur like that, you want to cut vertically, because if you cut straight across, it just makes it look really blunt, kind of like you're cutting actual hair. After getting it the right shape, I do hot glue it to the neck, and it looked a little bit uneven, and there was some red of the felt sticking through, so I wanted to hide that with this jute as well. It just makes it look nice and finished and more professional. Now these sticks I got from Hobby Lobby after Christmas, and they ended up being the perfect thing for the arms. So picking out two that I liked, I just took my scissors and trimmed through and cut a little slit into the foam. And using hot glue, I pushed that in nice and deep so that it's really secure, and I did the same thing to the other side. These sticks were also really nice because they're slightly flocked and have a little sparkle, just to make it look even prettier. Even though this is looking really nice already, I wanted to add some greenery and some berries just to add the colors to the outfit. And at the very end, I do a little buffalo plaid bow to match the hat. And here's the finished product. I really think it looks great. I've never made anything like this before with a styrofoam cone, and I even have a few more in my supplies, so I'm planning on making even more snowmen. You could even make a Santa Claus or a gnome if you wanted to, using the same things. For ornament number 2, I'm using these glass ornaments that I found from Michael's. I've had these for a long time and I'm so glad I'm finally using them up. I started off with this little snowman, and I did remove the top of the ornament that you hang the hook from, and I'm cutting a small thin strip of white felt and rolling it up into a cylinder and gluing it shut. This is just so I can fill up the hole that I made in the top of each ornament by removing the little hanger part. I want to create a cylinder that will fit down in there snugly so that I don't have any gaps and it won't fall down inside of the ornament itself. I put a little bit of hot glue in there just to secure it shut and made it flat with the top. I'm taking this little bottle brush tree and just twisting off the little wooden piece at the bottom, trimming up little extra pieces at the bottom of the tree, and applying hot glue in order to stick it down into that little felt piece. Now, just as one added quick decoration, I made this little cute bow with my satin ribbon and glued it to the very top of this little ornament. And to hang it, I'm going to be adding a green string and tying it around the top of the tree. Now, I know sometimes people are concerned about having a glass ornament instead of a shatterproof one, but anytime anyone tries to buy a glass ornament from us, we always let them know it's glass in case they want to return it or take it back because they're worried about maybe small children or if they have pets that want to climb in their tree. But most of the time they're okay with it, so I wouldn't be afraid of making glass ornaments for your craft show. Now, these had several different styles, and here they all are. I think my favorite one is the snowman, but I just love how shiny they are. I love the cute bows. I love the tree on the top. They just really look vintage to me. For the second vintage craft, I'm going to be using these vintage Tart tins, and I've had these for quite a while. They usually come whenever I buy cookie cutters, so I've not really figured out what I want to do with them until now. And I'm going to start with this beautiful round one. I absolutely love it. I love how the light shines off of it, and I'm going to be making it. It could be actually an ornament or just a centerpiece that you sit somewhere. And again, I've just hammered a couple of holes on both sides of this one so that I can wrap a pipe cleaner from one side to the other. So that would be the hanger if you would choose to hang it. Or like I said, it can just sit really cute somewhere on a shelf. This actually, even though this is kind of small, it actually turned out to be a pretty large piece. So I decided to do silver because there's going to be a lot of silver, red, and white in this one. I think it turns out so cute in the end. So using my pliers, I just gently pull it through, and this is the little hanger I'm talking about. I made it nice and tall so I can add a lot of decorations, and so that everything can stick really easily, I'm going to add a very thin layer of craft foam to the bottom. Now this is probably optional, but I just feel like things stick better to foam rather than to metal itself. Hot glue and metal don't really like one another very much. So after gluing everything in and making it nice and secure, I started off with this really tall, sparkly white bottle brush tree. I absolutely love this tree, and it gives it some height and really makes it stand out. Now the second thing I'm going to be adding is this adorable little snowman. Now I actually added all these to a previous ornament in another video, but this one was a little rough, but I thought this one actually matches the vintage vibe, so that's why I thought even though it's not vintage, it kind of looks it with the rough scratches on its face. So rather than just throwing it away, I'm going to be using it as like my main item here for this little Christmas ornament or centerpiece. So hot gluing it right in the middle, I then wanted to hang some things from that pipe cleaner. I took this thin piece of wire and had these bows for the longest time, and it's actually quite large, but it looks really cute. It helps fill in that big empty gap right behind the snowman's head, and I just gently twist it around that pipe cleaner so it hangs. I love the idea of having things sitting and hanging, so I love this craft so much. I definitely think I'm going to be doing more of these in the future. Now these little silver ornaments are shatterproof ornaments that you can get lots of places around Christmas time, and they're usually pretty inexpensive and come with multiple colors in the box. I just removed the top of the ornament to make them look like little sparkly round balls as different decorations to this piece. And if you don't like glitter, then this craft would not be for you because there's a bunch of really fun glitter in this as well. Now this pick I thought also matched the vintage theme, and I wanted some more height to the back and also to fill in a little bit more white to match that white tree. So this leaf stem was the perfect thing, and I'm going to be adding this as well right behind the snowman just to fill in that little gap between the snowman and the bow. It was a little bit too long, so I ended up trimming it up so it's the perfect size, and I'm going to be adding a few more extra white elements here and there as well. When I'm crafting, I really try not to waste any of my scraps. I have a huge box full of different greenery picks and colorful sparkly things. So rather than throwing these two little white leaves away, I glued them together and thought it would be another nice little thing to add behind these silver ornaments that I glued on earlier. By the way, that little red ball that's on top is not a ornament, it's actually just a little red berry. Now this red stem was also perfect. I wanted to cut up little tiny pieces just to add some more red here and there peeking out of some places. So I cut all these up and just add them in a few cute little areas peeking out here and there. I was really trying to not add anything green, but I needed some height behind all of it. And so I decided to go with this flocked greenery. The flocking helps make it not look so green, and it blends in with everything really nice and just gives it a nice backdrop. And the very last thing that I'm doing is adding a little bit of white snow. I really packed things in really well, so I didn't have to do this in too many spots, but I'm using my buffalo snow just to hide all of the green foam, using some scissors to poke it in really gently all the way around so it camouflages and hides all those little icky spots. And finally, this is the last finished product. I think it's super adorable. I absolutely love it. And what's also so cute about it is, like I mentioned earlier, that little pipe cleaner can be a hanger for a Christmas tree. You can definitely hang this up, or it has a nice flat base and you can sit it anywhere you want in your house. If you have a little nook or corner or a little shadow box, it's a perfect little piece for your home. Today I'm going to be sharing with you 3 different snowman ornaments. For the first one, you're going to be needing a large pine cone, and you're going to paint every single little tip like it's dusted with snow. And this is a great craft because you can do it really early on, because it's easy to find pine cones as early as September in different craft stores, because they can also be used for fall crafts. Then you're going to take a styrofoam ball and paint a snowman face on the front of it. Now I do usually load my brush pretty full with paint to get inside of all those little crevices and dips in the styrofoam, because you don't want to see any of the white kind of peeking through. So after doing the eyes, I just did a simple snowman mouth with the little dots of coal and an orange nose in the center. And even though this is a bumpy surface, it's really not that hard to paint on, and I'm just using my normal Americana acrylic craft paint. This pine cone had too many of these little pieces at the top, so I pulled out several of those in order for it to fit. And I'm going to put glue on the bottom of the styrofoam ball and also on top of the pine cone itself to make sure it fits really well and glues really tightly. I also have these little hats that you can buy at Hobby Lobby, but there's also a place called Factory Direct Craft where you can find them online. And I'm putting a string up through the top so that this is going to be the hanger, what it hangs from on the tree. I put a little bit of glue around the edge of the inside of the hat and press it on and let it dry really tight. And the ribbon is going to be a scarf. You can use whatever ribbon you like. I always like this plaid ribbon, and you can find ribbon, of course, at lots of different craft stores, so it's really easy to find all the supplies for this ornament. After doing a little scarf, I also like putting a little bit of this ribbon around the top of the hat just to give it an extra little detail and a little bit of color up top. I like to crisscross it over the back. And I'm going to have to glue that down, so putting a little bit of glue in the center and then just gently wrapping it around and making sure that's nice and even in the back. I also want to hot glue it to the hat so it doesn't flop loose, so I'm putting a little bit of glue under the ribbon as well and letting that stick. Now, one thing I really like to do is take these little snowflake buttons and cut off the back of them and add them as little details. I hardly ever use them as actual buttons, and I'm going to put one there on the scarf and also one at the back of the little hat just as a little extra detail. And here is my finished product. I think it's very cute, and it's a nice large ornament, so it fills up a lot of space on your tree. And here it is on my Christmas tree, all finished and looking really pretty. The second craft is super simple and easy. I have these little sparkly ornaments that I got from Hobby Lobby, but you can also find them at other craft stores or similar things. And I'm just taking my dotting tool and adding again a simple snowman face, just the normal coal eyes and coal mouth. And I'm going to paint a little nose on here as well. Now these little top hats are plastic, and again you can find these at Factory Direct Craft, and I drilled a hole through the top of the top hat, and I'm going to be stringing it on to the little snowman, so using a needle so that I can poke it up through the hole easily. It just kind of hides the top of the ornament and it can hang from this string. Now I want it so that the hat doesn't move up and down, so I tie it a couple of times and just do a little simple knot at the top, and there you have it. That's how simple and easy this ornament is. It's really small but very cute, and since it's so fast you can make a lot of them in a short amount of time. And here all are on my tree, and I just put them all there so that you can see how cute they are together. Now this last one, I have this plain piece of wood, and I'm keeping it natural, and I drilled those 2 holes at the top, and I went through my sketchbook and found this little sketch of this snowman, and I'm going to paint him on this natural piece of wood. Now of course you can paint whatever design you want on here. Sometimes people like to paint a scene with a family of snowmen, and you can customize it and write all your children's names or grandchildren's names. But I just wanted to make one single little snowman, kind of with a wintry scene in the background with some little birds. Again, I'm just using my plain Americana craft paint that you can buy at Hobby Lobby, Michael's. I think they even sell it at Walmart sometimes. And I kind of like this oblong shape for my snowman. It kind of reminds me of a bowling pin a little bit. I thought I could go in with my Posca paint pens and do the trees, but the wood was just a little bit too rough, so I just did a quick outline, and then I'm going to end up painting it in with regular acrylic paint. So Posca pens are great for outlines as well, in case you don't want to fill the whole space in. It's just a really convenient tool to have in your painting supplies. They're really versatile and just great additions to any craft that you're doing. After painting all the trees, I of course went in and added some little tree stumps. Now I did use the Posca pen for this because it was such a small space. Now if you don't have access to wood that is natural and not sanded, you can always use sanded wood. I just happen to have a lot of wood available for my crafts, and I like the rustic natural look. I added some really quick snowflakes there because as I was painting the snowman, it was kind of splattering in random spots, but I actually kind of liked that because it made it look a little bit more natural than me placing every snowflake perfectly. I painted with my Posca paint pen the 2 arms, and it's hard to see in this video, but I did give it a slight black outline just so you can see the arms a little bit better. I wanted to do a nice burgundy scarf, so I'm using this darker red paint pen for the scarf detail, and I'm not going to be adding, of course, a ton of really intricate, crazy details. I just want it to be a nice, cute, simple picture. I like the blue for the birdhouses, a couple little buttons on the snowman, and of course the iconic traditional bird at Christmas time is the cardinal. So I painted a couple little cardinals above each of these little birdhouses on the arms of the snowman. Also, in case you're wondering, I do paint over everything at least twice. I usually have to get up and dry it either with a hair dryer if I want to go quickly, or I just let it dry over time. But if I want to go fast, I do use my hair dryer to help dry things and give everything at least 2 coats of paint. Now I also added a little bit of white to the branches of my snowman and also on the edges of the tree. Because it's snowing, I thought it looked kind of funny to have everything empty, so I wanted to add a little bit of snow to the tops of things where it would naturally settle. I did a quick little carrot nose and some blush on the cheeks and some very simple sweet little eyes. Now for my scarf, the last few details are just to outline it slightly with the pen, add some simple black stripes just to give it a little bit of detail. And don't forget to tell me in the comments down below which one is your favorite so far, and subscribe if you love Christmas. Now for the hanger, I'm going to be using jute because it's a really strong string that will hold up the wood easily, and I'm going to tie it several times so it's nice and tight. And I'm going to be adding some wooden beads. I have a ton of wooden beads from other crafts and I've been using them a lot this year. So I'm going to do a green, white, green pattern and just repeating that on both sides so it has something pretty to hang from as well. Sometimes I use ribbon, but for this I thought the beads would look really cute. And here is the finished product. I'm going to hold it up kind of close so you can see it a little bit closer. Now this is again a larger ornament, but it doesn't have to just be an ornament. If you want to make something like this and hang it on a doorknob or just a nail on your wall, it's a great little addition to your Christmas decor. Here it is on my tree. I think it's really pretty. For ornament number 1, I'm going to be making an adorable snowman face using a fishing bobber, and this is the smallest size fishing bobber. And I also get these hats from an online store called Factory Direct Craft. They are the perfect little snowman hat. I've already drilled a hole into the hat and tied a string to it. And as you can see, when you push down on the top of the fishing bobber, a little hook comes up. So you just have to plug that hole at the bottom with your thumb and push down on the top, and the hook does pop up. Now sometimes you do have to adjust the hook with pliers so it's easier for you to get the string underneath, but it's really super easy to do. So again, just pressing that down, I then take the bottom of the string and just hook it into that hook, and it secures the string really nice and tight. Like, this string is not going anywhere. It's a nice tight hook. Then I just slid it down so that it would hide the knot underneath the hat, and voila, you have a cute little snowman hat on top of a fishing bobber. Super quick and easy. Now to just make sure it's nice and secure, I do tie a couple of tight knots up at the top just so the hat will not slide up through the string and come off the top. And the last finishing step is just to paint a really simple snowman face, and I just use normal acrylic paint. I've had no problem with it scratching off of the bobber, and I paint everything on the white portion. Quick, simple, adorable, a really good craft show bestseller. And they are so easy to make, and everybody loves them, not just fishermen. They're just adorable. The first ornament that I'm going to make over is this snowman ornament. And at one point in time, it might have been cute, but now it's just kind of ugly. It's tattered, it's torn, it's faded, it's dingy. It looks like it's been hanging in a barn, but no, actually I bought it with my own money. I guess I thought I could do something with it at one point in time. Well, now I'm just going to change it up and make it look better and new and fresh. I started off by removing the scarf and the hanger, the tattered material, and wanted to sand down the surface because unfortunately the eyes, nose, and buttons were all raised, so I needed to sand off that. I then went in and did a really nice coat of paint, and I had to paint this thing I don't know how many times, like 5 times, before it really became a nice true white. I painted the top hat the traditional black color and went in with my Posca paint pen to add the eyes and mouth, and I'm not gonna lie, it looks a little creepy right now, but don't worry, it does get better. I did an orange nose, and I thought it would be really cute if the snowman was holding something, so I drew the arms where it could look like it was holding a little wreath. The arms look a little short right now, but adding the wreath to the bottom does make it look like they're a little longer. It extends it. I just had the buttons going straight down the middle instead of curving them like the original one, added some highlights in the eyes, and then glued the wreath to the center. I always put a little ribbon around the hat and chose the traditional green color. I used kind of a nod to the original ribbon that was around its neck. I'm using this red and white ribbon to do a scarf. adding a little snowflake button to the middle. And anytime I do a snowman with a top hat, I always add a little group of holly berries to the top because I just think it's really cute. And when I think of snowmen with top hats, I think of holly. For the hanger of this ornament, I used the same ribbon that I used for the scarf. And this is the finished product. Is it anything groundbreaking and just revolutionary? No, but I think it's super cute and definitely better than the original. Now this ornament already has something started because it was actually an ornament we sold several years ago that had a plaid barn on the front of it with a wreath. And yes, that original one was very cute, but it just didn't sell very well for some reason. So rather than throwing everything away, I ripped off the barn material that was on the front and wanted to reuse the wood and the burlap and the string at the top. To tie in the black and white check, I added a little black border around the outside of the burlap with a little scalloped edge at the top just to add a cute little decoration. Now this one is going to be a snowman family of 3. It's going to be a papa and his 2 little kids. So here in the middle, I'm just starting to paint the dad in the center and then the 2 little children on the side. Now, even though this burlap is a rough and bumpy surface, it was actually really easy to paint on and it didn't soak up too much paint. I felt like it was a pretty easy process, not that different than painting on wood. If you're a crafter and wondering what you should make for your next craft show, or if you want to just give a gift to somebody, you truly cannot go wrong with snowman. We have lots of different things in our craft show. We have Santa Clauses, angels, all kinds of different themed Christmas items. But a snowman is definitely a no-brainer. It's a great way to go. People absolutely love them. I added some snowflakes and I'm now just going around the border, adding a little bit more detail to these empty wooden pieces at the top and bottom. I did some little dots and adding some little swirls around, again just to tie in that black ribbon. I didn't want to have to cut off that ribbon and change it. I thought that that would be a waste, so I wanted to use some black somewhere on this ornament. After I finished the swirls at the top and bottom, I used my Posca pen for the eyes and mouths. And again, even though this is a bumpy surface, the Posca pens went on there just fine. I really didn't have any problems with them. I forgot to record putting on the noses for some reason, but they're just orange little carrot noses. I used my paintbrush to add a top hat to the dad in the center. And instead of doing hats on the kids, I did little earmuffs. So I did red earmuffs on this snowman, and on the other little snow child, I did green earmuffs, just your traditional Christmas colors. I like to switch things up and do different decorations on different snowmen, and I think earmuffs always look really cute. After finishing the earmuffs, I then started doing the scarves, just a matching scarf for each snowman, a red one for this little red snowman, and then a green one for the one with the green earmuffs. I would like to know, when's the last time any of you have actually built a snowman yourself? Even though I'm older, last winter there was actually a really good snow at my house, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to build myself a snowman. I don't care if I'm in my 30s, I'm building myself a snowman. And I was looking around everywhere trying to find the suitable things, for the snowman, and I used a red plastic cup for the hat. So, you got to work with what you got. And for the daddy snowman, I did a nice blue scarf just to be a different color than the kids. I then added the little buttons down the bellies of each of the snowmen, and just a last finishing touch, of course, I'm going to do my little holly berries on top of the top hat. With my white paint pen, I wanted to add some little highlights to these black swirls because I thought it was looking kind of dark, and this just made them look like they had a little shine to them. And here's the finished product. I thought it was a great idea to reuse these instead of throwing all these materials away. And I had enough, I even made a second version. So tell me in the comments down below which one you like best. And for our third and final makeover, I have this little wooden snowflake. And no, this one really isn't that bad, but it's very rough, very bumpy, kind of old and primitive looking. So again, I wanted to freshen it up. I started off by painting it again like a million coats of paint and wanted to do a gradient. So I went with a dark blue, a baby blue, and then a really light blue right in the center. and just blended these until it had a nice white circle right in the middle. And I thought this is going to be a snowman's face. Maybe this is like a little baby snowman because they come from snowflakes. So after doing a lot of blending, I went in and added the white little face. And because this is a baby, I wanted to make a cute little face, so I went with these round eyes that are kind of spread out a little bit farther, and a nice little carrot nose, and just a tiny little smile. I didn't want to do the traditional black coals. I just wanted to do a cute little face. I added a little white highlight to the eyes. I thought that that looked nicer than just having black holes. And a little pink blush to the cheeks. And I'm not gonna lie, this one kind of had to grow on me. I wasn't really sure if I was liking it right off, but after finishing it up, I thought it looked pretty nice. I wanted a little extra detail. I just felt like something was missing, so I added those little dots around the outside. And that paint bottle is actually a clear coat with glitter inside of it. And I have had that for so long, probably 10 years, and it's still working and still going strong. So it's kind of hard to see, but it does add a nice shine and glitter to it. So I hope that my camera picks up some of the shine and glitter so you can see it. Here are the 3 finished products with the bonus of the additional snowman. For shadow box number 1, I've already painted a nice baby blue around just the inside of the bottom of the box, the back, and all around the edges. I always use my Americana craft paint, and I'm then going to be applying a thin coat of Mod Podge to the bottom in order to stick down some scrapbook paper. And I've picked out this pretty light blue paper with snowflakes all over it, and normally I have a piece that fits the entire background, but this one was a little short, but don't worry, I'm going to be covering that up with some felt. Now, of course, I do this for all my shadow boxes. I go around the edges with some glitter glue. I then sprinkle some diamond dust around the edges, and it sticks to all that glitter glue, and it's just so pretty. It makes a beautiful sparkly border. And here's a piece of felt I mentioned earlier. I'm just going to be gluing it in with my hot glue, and I've already cut it out to make a nice little snowy hill for the background. And this is going to be probably my most popular version of shadow boxes because it's going to have snowmen in it. Anytime I do anything with snowmen, it is super popular. I also wanted to add some 3D snow, so I used my buffalo snow, and I'm just gluing that to the bottom of the box to give it a little bit more texture. In case you're wondering, you find these boxes in the wood section of the Dollar Tree where all the craft supplies is at, and they're just a simple wooden box. There's no lid or cover, and I just turn them into shadow boxes. Now this beautiful Christmas tree sticker I just recently got from Hobby Lobby. They are out all year long. They are not a seasonal item, so you can go and buy these stickers right now. I thought this would be the perfect sticker for the background, just right in the center. These snowmen as well you can buy at Hobby Lobby, and yes, they're already a sticker, but I like to bump these out from the back. Someone mentioned this in my very first shadow box video, that I should put foam on the back to make them stick out even more. So I've been doing that all the time, and I absolutely love it. It just gives the box more dimension. And I'm going to be gluing this snowman on the left side of the tree, and there's going to be another one on the right, kind of like a couple, like they're Mr. and Mrs. Snowman. I also always try to put something in the very front of my shadow box, so I had these sparkly little pom-pom balls, and so I took 3 of them and stacked them up like they're kind of building their own little snowman maybe, and they're just getting ready to build themselves another little friend. So I just stacked them up like a pyramid, one on top of the other, and I thought this was a cute little detail. Another craft supply that I use all the time from Hobby Lobby are these cute little snowflake buttons, but I never use them as actual buttons. I always end up cutting the back of them off and just use them as simple little snowflakes to lots of my different crafts. So I'm going to just put little tiny dots of hot glue in the background and glue them here and there wherever I think they look cute, just again to add a little 3D element to the background. I know there's already a ton of snowflakes, but I like adding like the 3D elements as well. And I always enjoy putting something on the border. I didn't have a sticker that I liked that would match, so whenever I don't have a sticker, I make a pretty little bow, this lovely white bow with silver snowflakes, and I also added a larger snowflake right in the center. Now this one I like a lot. It has a really large bottle brush tree. Now I had to cut off the entire bottom, but still ended up being just a tad bit too tall. So rather than forcing it in, I was afraid I was going to scrape the top of the box. I cut off just the very tip of the tree and it ended up fitting perfectly. So this year I am planning on doing a lot of after Christmas shopping like I did last year, because I found a lot of things at Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Joann's, Michael's, you name it. We pretty much went there and found a lot of things. So maybe I'll be able to make a video of all the supplies that I found. For ornament number 1, I'm making a snowman, so I did 2 coats of white paint on the traditional round clothespin, and I'm going to be making a little felt hat. Now what's great about this is you can use a penny for the size of the brim of the hat. So all you have to do is trace around a penny, and even though I know you can't see it, you can actually use a ballpoint pen to trace on felt, and it does show up. It's very faint, but you can see it. Then I'm just measuring out the width of the hat, and this we're going to roll up to make the top hat portion. So after cutting it, I just roll it up into a little cylinder, and I'm trying to make sure that it's not too wide and hot gluing it a little bit as I go. So checking to see if the width is okay, and I think that looked pretty good. So I trimmed it off there, finished by gluing it shut, and then I'm going to attach these 2 pieces together with hot glue, and it makes a cute little top hat. I'm also making a scarf for my snowman, so I'm just using plain plaid fabric, and I thought it was a little bit too thick, so I'm making it a little bit thinner. You can definitely make it whatever width you like, and I'm pulling off some edges to make it a little bit raveled, to make it maybe a little bit more vintage or worn looking scarf. I'm now starting to hot glue some pieces together. I'm putting my hat right on top of the little snowman, and using my paint pen I'm doing a really simple snowman face. Just 2 eyes, your traditional coal mouth, and then I'm going to use the orange paint pen to make the carrot nose. And if you're wondering how you use these as an ornament, you just choose your preferred branch and slide them down with the gap between the legs. I wanted to add a little bit more to the hat, so I wanted a little ribbon going around the top hat part. So I just cut a really thin piece of burgundy felt. I thought still that was a little bit too thick, so I cut that in 2. And I'm going to be adding just a little strip around the hat to give it a little bit of color. Now, of course, this is pretty small, so you just want to be careful when you're gluing anything really tiny. I did put a little bit of glue right in the middle of this burgundy color, and then just wrapped it around the edges like so. On the back, I trimmed it up and overlapped the pieces so there was nothing sticking out on the back side. Now for the last few finishing touches, I'm just attaching the scarf, wrapping it around that little neck part of the clothespin, tying it twice, and then some simple little buttons. And here is my little clothespin snowman. I think they're super cute. I have made these in the past, and they do sell really well, so I do recommend making them if you want them as a gift or for your craft show. For the third and final ornament, I went with a snowman. I painted the entire clothespin white and used my paint pen to add simple eyes, a simple mouth, and then of course an orange carrot nose. Now I have actually made these in the past and they do sell very well, so if you're interested in making these for your craft show, I would recommend making them. I think they're a cute little addition. I also added a little scarf to the front using this red and white checked ribbon, and of course you know that you can use whatever color ribbon you want. I've done pink and white, dark blue and white, light blue and white, green and white. You can use whatever ribbon you like. I also ended up tying this ribbon twice to make sure it was nice and secured, and then just trimmed up the ends to make it the correct length. And for the final finishing touch, I just added a few little simple buttons down the front of the snowman. This one we're going to have to paint it a little bit, but don't worry about the paint. It dries really quickly, and you just need 1 popsicle stick, and this is going to be a snowman, so I'm painting it white. Just a thin coat of paint, and while it dries, you can be cutting out all your pieces. So I cut out a little circle for the head, and I'm just drawing a little top hat. I've had kids make like little toboggans, Santa hats, whatever hat they like. I also decided to put a little green ribbon around the hat. And the kids just get to be really creative, and they're really silly and fun and cute, and it helps doing all this while the stick is drying. I'm also using my Sharpies to decorate the face, but you can use whatever markers you have on hand or even colored pencils. And using my liquid glue, I'm going to be gluing down the head, but I'm also going to be adding a few other little decorations down below. With a pipe cleaner, I'm going to cut it in two because you only need half of it, and this is going to be the scarf of the snowman. So taking it and twisting it together, I always tell the kids it's like twisting a twisty tie around a bag of bread so that they have something to relate it to. But I am also going to add buttons down the front, just any kind of little decorations, and it is super quick and super cute. Now for this one, I do it with my 3rd graders, but like I've been saying, any age can make this craft. And the last step is just gluing the little string on the back, and here's the finished snowman. It's really cute, it's small, lightweight, and the kids love to make it.